Hello and welcome to the online Sunday service of the St. Croix Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in St. Croix Falls, Wisconsin. I'm the Reverend Kelli Clement. I'm the minister of this congregation, and I want to share with you my message for today, Sunday, July 5th, 2020. I remember the first time I saw an American flag upside down. I'd taken a small group of youth and adults to Ferguson, Missouri on the 1-year anniversary of the uprising there following the death of Michael Brown. There was a memorial in the street where Mr. Brown's body lay for some 4 hours after he was killed in the August heat on Canfield Drive, which runs between two apartment complexes. At this memorial, stuffed animals lined the spot, along with notes to Michael from his friends and relatives, from folks who showed up in solidarity and sadness. There was a battered and tattered American flag that was displayed at what I took to be the head of the space, and it was upside down with the field of stars in the lower left corner. Perhaps I knew from some old-timey movie about the Navy that to display a flag upside down means dire distress for a ship at sea. In that one image of the stars and stripes, it was immediately clear that this was a distress signal from people recognizing that what is happening in our country is wretchedly wrong. When Shirley Chisholm ran for president of the United States in 1972, the first Black major party candidate and the first woman to run for the Democratic nomination, she was asked why she ran. The question came like this: "You don't have a chance. Why are you doing this?" And she answered, "Because I am in love with the America that does not exist in time and space, that does not yet exist in time and space." The Shirley Chisholm Project expands this quote by saying that her love was for a different kind of society, and it was a condemnation of the world as it currently exists. It was a progressive and visionary love that was born out of an understanding that what we do today can set the stage for years to come. That was 48 years ago. And today it may still be said that we are in love with an America that does not yet exist. Many white Americans are again waking up to what Congresswoman Chisholm expressed almost half a century ago, that we can love this country and also be mad and sad at the unfairness that is baked into its very being. Each generation has to unlearn the myth of American exceptionalism, when truly we lead the world in only a few areas: the number of incarcerated citizens, the number of adults who believe in angels, defense spending, and coronavirus cases. To love this country is to be in a dysfunctional relationship where we are consistently being gaslighted about how great we are, when if we have eyes to see and ears to hear, we know that something is deeply wrong. The flag is upside down. I spoke last month about the concentric rings of fire raging in this land of plenty and of want. Today, I want to talk about what a spiritual practice of justice means in times like these. Ask how our commitment to Unitarian Universalism both helps and hinders us, and ask what is our call to action. A spiritual practice is one that calls us to our center, to reflection, calls us outward into relationship, and calls us to a deeper connection to our values, to faith, and to our integrity. A spiritual practice of justice calls us into the ongoing, never-ending journey to remake community by strengthening relationships. So says my friend and colleague, the Reverend Dr. Marvin Ellison. I'm going to read that again. A spiritual practice of justice calls us into the ongoing, never-ending journey to remake community by strengthening relationships. Spiritual practice may be something we can do alone, like journaling or yoga, going on walks in nature. The practice of justice is best done in community because we cannot and should not remake the world alone, especially in these days that call us to decenter our whiteness, to listen to and center the stories of Black, Indigenous, and people of color. It is not out of our own thoughtful heads that solutions may come, but in the word and work of community, in the push and pull of shared imagination. That's where progress happens. Much of America has tuned in to watch the brilliant Broadway musical Hamilton, just released on Disney Plus, and certainly it's not perfect. There are things that people may find to quibble about it, and for instance, the complete lack of representation of any Indigenous people in this story. But in this creative reimagining of the origin story of the United States, writer Lin-Manuel Miranda tells this story using artists who are Black and people of color, using hip hop as the vernacular, and causing viewers to hear the narrative in a completely new way. What if Black, Indigenous, and people of color had been full participants in the founding of this country? What if women had been full participants in the founding of this country? What would be different? Everything? What if whiteness and patriarchy were not baked into our founding narrative as the gold standard for all that is pure and good and righteous? A spiritual practice of justice invites us to see with new eyes, to unlearn, to relearn, to let go of old narratives that no longer serve the whole, if indeed they ever did. How might our Unitarian Universalism help and/or hinder us in our spiritual practice and quest for justice? Well, our 7 principles are each an affirmation of the world we hope to live into, and they speak directly to this quest for justice. Our affirmation is to affirm and promote the worth and dignity of every person. We reach for justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, acceptance of one another, and the encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. A free and responsible search for truth and meaning. The right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large. The goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. And respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. There is a growing movement afoot to promote a new 8th principle, journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that are accountable to dismantle racism and other repressions in ourselves and in our institutions. As Unitarian Universalists, we have covenantal support, a framework in which to take on this spiritual practice of justice. What we also have is a long tradition of individualism. What do I think? What do I believe and affirm? If we are bound by covenant rather than by creed, which basically means we think it's more important what we how we will be together in the world than what we say we believe. We tend to think in individual terms. What would our Unitarian Universalism be like if we center ourselves less and center the community more, the wider community, the needs of the whole, rather than the individual? Certainly, there is layer upon layer upon layer and generation upon generation upon generation of white supremacy culture baked into Unitarian Universalism. It behooves us to look at that, to unlearn and relearn what can be helpful to make us thrive. This is a tendency we have to fight against, this individualism. And as white folks, it will cost us. We will make mistakes, and we have to be willing to be unsure and inept and to own our mistakes and to get up and get out again and do better. This is a call to action. Find your lane. Is it reading more about how white supremacy culture is threatening the very survival of our democracy? It is. There are dozens of reading lists, some of which I've shared on the Scoof Facebook page and in newsletters. Is it marching or showing up for actions? We are connecting our congregation with the Amory Allies to find out how we can support and get involved with this group and other local groups in our area. Is it calling your local police or sheriff's department and asking them about how they train their officers in harm reduction and anti-racism? Is it contacting your representatives, working on a political campaign for a candidate who advances equity? Is it registering voters? Is it speaking up when you would rather not? The wonderful writer Audre Lorde said, "When I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in the service of my vision, then it becomes less and less important whether I am afraid." What can I do today that pushes me out of my comfort zone and calls me to practice in the mirror and speak up the next time I have an opportunity to do so? Let us find our lane. Let's find our lane. Find the next thing that scares you just a little bit and try it. Keep pushing it out a little bit. Let's try to widen our vision because our integrity calls us to do so, because our faith commitment calls us to do so. As Catholic priest Richard Rohr reminds us, we live in the now and the not yet. So our imagination and our commitment is for now and for times we shall never see. Like Shirley Chisholm, we may be in love with an America that does not yet exist in time and space. Let us be about the hard and holy task of bringing it into being. May it be so, and amen.